Stranger Things pizza. Stranger Things. Let's get that dude on the back. And it comes with glasses. Stranger Things Season 4 is finally out. The first episode is titled Chapter 1, The HELLFIRE Club, and before I get into it, this video is going to be full of spoilers. So if you haven't seen the episode yet, first of all, go watch it and then come back and watch this. This is my episode 1 discussion. I'm going to talk about each episode individually. Episode 2 I'm going to release later today, so you should subscribe for that reason if you like Stranger Things. This season begins 6 months after the events of Season 3, and all of our characters are spread out across the globe. Jonathan, Joyce, Will, and Eleven have moved to California. We see Joyce working from home, Jonathan having woodworking class, and of course Will and Eleven are friends going to school, and we see Will now being known as her birth name of Jane, trying to fit in, trying to give presentations at class, and she's being bullied and she's struggling with it. And then back in Hawkins, we start to see a rift in the group, very similar to Season 3 with Dustin. Now it's with Lucas. Lucas is now part of the basketball team, and he's being replaced in his Dungeons and Dragons group with his sister Erica, which I think is cool for plot reasons. I like Erica. I'm happy to see her part of the group. But the very first thing we see in this season is a flashback to 1979. And we see Dr. Brenner yet again. He's walking through Hawkins' laboratory. He's looking at all of his test experiments, the children with superpowers. And he's working with this one. 10 is his name, based on his bracelet or tattoo. I don't remember, but it's 10. And we're seeing a different side of Brenner, which I'm not sure how I like. It's going to depend on how they pull it off. He seems to be somewhat caring towards 10. He seems to genuinely care about the kids that are in his laboratory, which we saw hints of in Season 1 with 11, but we're seeing it more. And I have a feeling they're trying to show us Brenner in a sympathetic light, and I'm not quite sure he earns that or deserves that yet because he is a mad scientist working on children. But for all we know, they're going to sort of rewrite him to be more of like a Professor X character, where he's trying to utilize these kids in a less evil way than, say, someone else may. And as this flashback progresses, we see all the kids murdered by 11, and it's a horrifying scene. It's very, very disturbing to see, and 11 looks evil, and I'm just very curious to see how this is going to play into the plot moving forward, because does 11 even remember doing this? Or does she just not remember this? But the majority of this episode is seeing these characters' lives 6 months later, getting to re-know them, getting to reconnect with them, getting to see where they are now. For example, Mike and Dustin are part of the HELLFIRE Club, like I said earlier, with Lucas, but he's more focused on basketball. The HELLFIRE Club is a group of mainly seniors. Mike and Dustin are the youngest of the group, well, Erica now technically, and they're playing Dungeons and Dragons. The leader of this group is a new character known as Eddie, and he's also on the side a drug dealer. We see him selling weed to this new girl named Chrissy, and she has a very interesting story. So we don't know anything about Chrissy. This is the first time we see her in the show, but she's being tormented. She's being haunted by these visions that look like they're coming from the upside down. They're very similar to the visions that Will had in Season 2. We see this monster that looks like something out of the upside down appear at the bottom of a bathroom stall. She ends up going to Eddie looking for drugs. He offers her weed. She ends up asking for something a bit more hard, and she ends up going back to Eddie's house after their Dungeons and Dragons game session is over, in which she is murdered in a scene that is straight out of Nightmare on Elm Street. I felt like I was watching Nightmare on Elm Street. It doesn't take a genius to see that they had serious inspiration from the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie during this scene. Even the soundtrack during the credits sounded like the Freddy Krueger theme. But Eddie sees Chrissy standing there in a trance-like state, and he has no idea what is going on. And Chrissy, in her mind, is having these horrifying visuals. She sees her dad with his mouth and eyes sewn shut, and she sees this new monster that's straight from the upside down. It looks like the Mind Flayer, it looks like the Demogorgon, but this one talks. This one has a conscience, and it murders her. And in the real world, Eddie just sees her body fly to the roof and her arms and legs broken, and it's horrifying. And like I said, but I'm gonna say again, straight out of Nightmare on Elm Street, and I absolutely loved it. I have a feeling that this new monster is the Mind Flayer, because the Mind Flayer was smart. The way the Mind Flayer acted in Season 2 and Season 3 was smart. I don't think that the Mind Flayer was this big monster, you know what I mean, that we saw at the end of Season 3 in the battle for Starcourt. I feel like that was just a vessel, a monster-like vessel that the Mind Flayer was controlling. I always thought that the Mind Flayer was a bit more conscious, a bit more human. And I think that this creature that we're seeing is the closest true form we've ever gotten to the Mind Flayer. That's just my prediction. Like I said, I have not seen further in this season as of recording this video. But all the marketing was right, all the press was right, everything, all the interviews with the cast and the crew and the filmmakers was right. This already is probably the darkest season of Stranger Things, and I don't just mean in terms of the horror, I mean in terms of the themes. Like, we see Max dealing with serious depression, and she's become more of an outcast than she ever was, presumably due to the death of her brother Billy. And like I said, the whole themes with Chrissy and wanting drugs, it's very real darkness mixed with a genuine horrifying darkness of the Upside Down coming back, and I like it. Of course, some other plot points. We see Robin trying to connect with a girl that she likes. We see Steve going on a date with a new girl, but Steve and Robin's friendship is continuing. I like to see that. Anyway, that's my quick and brief thoughts on the first episode of season 4 of Stranger Things, titled The Hellfire Club. If you like this video, you should subscribe to this channel, because I'm going to be talking about every single episode of Stranger Things season 4, one at a time. I'm going to release episode 2 later today. And again, consider subscribing to the channel. I do TV show discussions, movie discussions, trailer reactions, that sort of thing. The channel is growing, and I thank you all that have subscribed so far. And again, I hope you consider subscribing if you haven't yet.